All right. Awesome. Me, and since I know you know me, but introduce myself. I'm Lisa, and my motto is to live life with strength, love, and adventure. And it's even tattooed on my arm as a daily reminder. But I was born and raised here in Washington and now live on my boat in Puget Sound. And I just love everything outdoors. So kayaking, backpacking, hiking, uh, everything with alone or with my husband. Most of the time with my husband, and it's just pretty awesome. Uh, but love taking photos as I travel. Um, uh, and if it just be on a hiking trail or if we go to Sweden or wherever it might be. And also, I do love doing portraits. So, getting to do headshots and high school seniors. High school seniors are probably my favorite. And then families also, too. So, I just want to definitely share the beauty of the world with everybody. So, today, we are talking about the light, everything about the light. So what is the light, why light's important, types of light, and some tips. And then ultimately, I've added some practice ideas towards at the end of this webinar. So in photography terms, there's nice scientific ones, but I left out the scientific definitions of what light is. But for photography, light is the essential element that is used to and creates an image. It defines our exposure, reveals shapes, textures, sets the mood, foundation for visual storytelling. And without light, there is no photograph. So light is the one constant in photography. It's not about our gear, our subject, or our editing. Light is just everything. It's the paint to create. And once we start seeing it clearly, our photography will definitely transform. So why is light important? So photography, if you didn't know, the actual definition literally means drawing with light. And we use light to create mood, to create shapes, textures, and emotions. And light is definitely a necessary element of all our photography. And our light influences our exposures, how bright our images are or how dark they are, our mood. Is it a soft mood, a harsh mood? Is it a happy mood? Is it a scary mood? Our color, temperature, and our tones, they can, last talk, we talked about color a lot and what color adds to a photo and the feeling and the mood that color adds to our photography. And light also can add depth and dimension, like shadow, highlight, contrast. So you could take the same photo in two different types of light and end up with maybe one day a joyful memory or another day a dramatic masterpiece. But light sets the tone of our photo. And without light, there is no photograph. That's kind of just basic there. But before we go on to types of light, know that good or awesome light is not always there. Every time we walk out the door with our camera, we're not guaranteed that we're going to get a fantastic photo with all the light and the drama and everything we want, because we don't have control over the natural world out there. I know it's kind of shocking, but it can be frustrating. I've done this so many times. I go to a location and I have envisioned this whole idea. I'm going to get this, and this, and then nothing. It's like the light is flat. It's not where I thought it was going to be because my planning wasn't quite on par. And so I get there, I'm just kind of devastated maybe about it. But But I do try most of the time. Sometimes I pout a little maybe, but other times I really try uh, to use that time, especially if I've gone way out of my way to go to a location. It's like maybe I really can find the composition I want to come back to. Um, Best case scenario, I find something else that I would never have thought to photograph in that place, because now I'm looking everywhere. I had that idea for I'm going to do this. And when the I'm going to do this didn't pan out, it's like, okay, what else is there? So now it's maybe an intimate scene, something very small, or a plant or a flower, or all of a sudden there's a leading line I hadn't seen before. But, our conditions sometimes don't play out, but other times we get a happy stance. I call it happy because it makes me happy that something cool happens. And so Alaska, I'll use that an example. And it was kind of the sort of the opposite, but different. I'd gone to Alaska for a birthday, one of my birthdays a couple years ago, and hoping to see the Northern Lights, and my husband and I went, and oh my goodness. So this is December. This is a couple days before Christmas. And there's only a few hours of light in Alaska. We were in Fairbanks at that time. And every day the light was this yummy, golden, soft light with snow everywhere. We had aurora borealis each night. Some nights it was really faint, but it was every night. So the next year we booked, I'm like, I'm going, this was this January. I'm like, oh, let's go back to Alaska. It'll be a late birthday. And we go, nothing. I never took my camera out of the bag. And I was so sad because I expected what we had before, and now we kind of knew where to go, and it was going to be even better. But no, they were having a heat wave. It rained the whole time. There was hardly any snow all over, and this is Fairbanks in January. And but we had an amazing time anyway. But I try not to let it be a big disappointment, but it sure was a difference from the time before. So an example of this is here in Seattle, and I get to often be out on Elliott Bay. So be it on a ferry or a boat or a friend's sailboat, maybe doing we call it the hot dog race during the summer. We sail on a friend's sailboat down all around Elliott Bay, because it's just a super friendly day race, because I am not a racer. I do not like sailboat racing when people are cutting you off. I just don't do that. But a happy, easygoing, where you get hot dogs and beer at the end, that's my kind of race. So Seattle skyline, here are some examples. These are all different Seattle skyline photos. And you can see they each bring a different view. Well, obviously night, that's totally different. Here is a plain blue sky with some haze. That brings one type of mood. The one on the top right corner, this was actually Mother's Day, so just just over a week and a half ago. Or no, that was this Sunday. And, cool clouds, but, the light was different. It was kind of all silvery looking. The bottom left, I think was, I don't think that was one of our sail days, but it was just drab, the sky, there was no interest. The light was just there. The one in the middle here, that's more of a typical Seattle day, right? And that gave off a total different mood with the haze and the little bit of clouds. And the one in the bottom right was super cool light, right? And this was on yesterday. This was totally yesterday, no joke. And I was taking a friend my dear 88-year-old friend over to a celebration of life for her dear friend. And So here, super cool light, and I just love the way that it turned out. So each one of these is a different mood, different light, and they each give you a different feeling. And then, how about this? This was seriously last night. So this is coming back same day. So if I go back, the bottom right, that was yesterday on the way over to Bainbridge Island. And then this is the way home. And the light, I was so giddy about it. And, you know, the way the light reflected, obviously, if you could tell, it was getting really close to sunset. And the way the light was reflecting on the buildings and then reflecting on the light, or excuse me, on the bay, and how it just lit up the skyline. So, right, totally different feel. I have no control over this whatsoever. It's just one of those amazing happy stances that that I got to experience. But you can see how light totally gives off a different vibe. And sometimes for the Pacific Northwest, that awesome hazy overcast skies, that is a perfect feel for our Pacific Northwest. So let's move on. There's lots of types of light. And first off, though, we need to learn to love all types of light, not just the golden hour. The golden hour often is the creme brulee or whatever, you know, just the, oh, golden hour, the sunrises or sunsets, everything is so cool. But every light has character. But we just need to learn how to use it, and ultimately first to see the light. And in was it last visit we were talking, our last talk on Zoom, we were talking all about composition, and light is part of our composition. And there's all sorts of ways to use the light. So the first light we're going to talk about is bright sunlight. Sometimes it's called hard light or midday light, and this is often in the middle of the day. It can cause harsh shadows, it can be direct, it can be concentrated, and sometimes it can be difficult. I mean, I don't know how many photographers I've heard going, don't go photographing in the middle of the day, you'll never get anything. You need to go in the morning and the golden hour and the sunrise and sunset and blue hour. Don't even waste your time going out in the middle of the day. I'm sorry. I think they're wrong. I'm like, these are photos of the Palouse. These are midday. And the lighting was just bright up in the sky. Obviously, the second one, there was a lot more clouds involved, which cast some really cool shadows. But I wouldn't have got that at the golden hour. These are really in the middle of the day. So don't listen to any photographers that tell you that the light sucks and in the middle of the day, go out and chase the light no matter where it is. Here are some other dramatic lights. And often clouds are involved, right? That really cause cool drama with our light. There's the top left. I mean, just the light that is in the clouds are just spectacular. And then so they cause the darkness, the light, and here it was later on in the day, so there was a little bit of golden light down here. This is actually all these three are all from my boat. And just, I mean, look at that light. If it had just been overcast, I would not have experienced the light coming through the clouds and the white and the dark and the gold. And then light here up at the top right is my neighbor calls them the God rays. So those beautiful rays that come down, that's another good, yummy light. The bottom right is not the Palouse. It looks like the Palouse, but it is in Eastern Washington. But there was this really cool shadow down here, bright light, and these amazing white clouds. And I liked it in color, but I think the black and white really shows out shows off the light in that photo. Here's in Sweden, again, with the clouds. There's partial clearing, the darkness of the storm. I have a terrible dirt spot on my lens. On my sensor. I need to clean that up. And but you know, it was like the light right before a storm. It was coming in over the top of me, and then it just started raining, and but that light was so cool. Here's just right dead in the middle of the day. This is down on the Oregon coast, and a little bit of a long exposure you can see here in the water. Beautiful bluebird, you know, sky with these white puffy clouds. But again, that light to me is phenomenal, even though it's in the middle of the day. Our precious, amazing golden light, or our golden hour. And this warm, I just call it yummy all the time. The warm glow happens in the morning before, during the first hour after sunrise, and the last hour before sunset. And this is what is often sought out for our photos. And so you could see the rays. I caught the rays of the light coming over the beach and the rocks. Technically, this one is actually post sunset, but it's still that yummy golden color. Here, my story about Alaska. This was in Alaska before the sunset, because the sun only comes up a tiny bit above the horizon and then pops back down in December. And so this amazing golden yummy light before the sun finally set. Here's some other spectacular golden light in Oregon. This barn and so forth is a little cabin I stayed at, not here, the cabin's next to it, excuse me, in by the Steens Mountains in Oregon. And this was before the sunset, and this color, I just turned around and I saw the sun getting low, and then I turned around and I almost gasped how beautiful it was. And this one here is the Leslie Gulch. If you've never been to Leslie Gulch in Oregon, I highly recommend it. It's absolutely amazing. I did not know how spectacular it would be, but I'm driving in to go camping at the end of the gulch, and I look up, and the light just did this. Now, mind you, the next day for a little while, it was totally flat. The light was flat. I didn't get any of this awesomeness because the light totally changed. So again, what a blessing that I got to experience the Leslie Gulch with just this phenomenal light. I mean, it's still a gorgeous place, even with boring flat light and overcast skies, whatever it might have presented. But this light, I think, was just absolutely amazing. The next light is, of course, sunrise, sunset. It can cast long shadows. It can be any color, the pinks, purples, yellows, oranges, and the color is just an amazing part of the light that we hope to capture. So here are two sunrises, no joke, on Blake Island, which is here just a boat ride from Seattle, and two different mornings. And the one morning, so this is, if you can see my cursor, this is the Seattle skyline right over here, and this is the marina. Gorgeous golden yellow lights. And then I think it was maybe the next day, it turned in this beautiful purples and pinks and blues. I felt like I was standing in Hawaii or something, except for the is it magnolia tree? I don't think they have those in Hawaii, but it sure felt like this tropical look about it. And so the light was phenomenal. Here's another sunrise. This is a Glacier National Park. And if this didn't have any of this light in here, let's say this sky here was through the whole image, it would have been really boring and really flat. And even though the chairs are kind of interesting and the way the rocks are around here, you know, it structurally it's cool looking, but if the light had just been this boring gray sky, it would not have had the impact with the reflection and so forth. Interesting story. I posted this photo, I don't know, a year ago maybe, and this gal messaged me and she goes, "My kids and I built that rock way across that river, like I don't know if she said 8 years ago or something like that." And I'm just like, okay, that's really freaking cool. That's really cool. Here is another sunset down at um uh in the very southern Oregon. And again, the way the light set and the clouds just was absolutely spectacular. Here's sunrise at La Push, or First Beach. And once again, the way the light was coming up behind me, and this is looking west, so the sun was definitely behind. And but the way that it casts the light on the stumps and the island over here, and then the light on the colors that are out in the skies was it was just amazing morning. Another light is the blue hour. And I didn't realize it. I didn't even know about the blue hour until I became a photographer. And probably many years into being a photographer did I even know about the blue hour. And this happens before sunrise and then after sunset. And it makes the sky this amazing, beautiful blue color. And it doesn't always happen and it only lasts like 20 minutes. And I still remember the first time I really experienced it. I believe I was on a ferry, and I looked out and I'm like, no kidding, everything is blue. The water is blue, the sky is blue, everything is blue. And it was just an amazing thing to see. So here's a couple different blue hour photos. And this one, I just happened to catch this really cool rainbow in it. I don't even know if it's called a rainbow because it's blue and it doesn't have all the colors in it. And it even dropped down below the horizon. And anyway, spectacular. Here's another blue hour. And I was down at Edmonds Beach and the Bubble Man. If you're a Seattleite or a Seattle area, the amazing, famous Bubble Man. He's often at different beaches, and he was there blowing bubbles. And yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous night. So another light is diffuse light, soft light, or overcast light even. And this light happens when there's cloud cover. The light is often evenly spread. It softens shadows. If you do portraits, this type of light is phenomenal because there's no harsh shadows. If you ever do portraits, if you have harsh daylight, like you would not want to photograph people in the harsh daylight because the sun's overhead, right? And then it casts these really dark shadows under the eyes and so forth. So diffuse light day is the best way to do portraits, or using off-camera flashes too. Um, where did my screen go? Hold on a second. Well, that's bizarre. Oh, hold on a second. All right. That is so weird. Let me try again. Don't you love technology? Oh my gosh.
Do you want to pause recording or did you just do that?
No, I should. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Escape. Here we go. There we go. All right. We'll give this a try again. All right. Awesome. Can you see? All right, fantastic. Okay, so this looks a whole lot better now. So technical difficulties. So diffuse light, the cloud cover, and again, the even light all over. And these are some photos. I was at a friend's cabin over, this is Lake Cleolum, and it was early one morning, and this gorgeous fog and light happened, and this rainbow. I couldn't have planned for this. The lower one is another early morning here at our marina, and it had this gorgeous purple pink color with all this fog. And so without that light, I mean, it would just be a regular marina shot, right? But that was pretty amazing. There we go. So this is English National Park, and the light is just super even, right? So I'm driving by these amazing forests, and there was no harsh light. It was completely overcast, but this nice bright light because of the snow and everything, and I was able to capture that. Here are at our tulip fields up at Skagit that we just had, and best way to photograph flowers is on a overcast days, because it totally takes away the dynamic light of super bright whites and all these shadows and darks, instead a diffuse sky or an overcast sky just allows for even light, which just makes for way better uh, flower photography. This is over in Leavenworth, actually. And one morning we woke up, I was over photographing an engagement session, and woke up in the morning and just had this awesome fog. And I love fog and photographing fog. And sometimes I fail at it, but this day it was just too amazing. And so up against the mountains here, and this road that went through, I was out on this balcony, and the light from the sun's coming up, and along with the fog, just really made some amazing light. Here's another type of diffuse light or overcast light, is over in Montana, and this lone fisherman out on this huge lake. And it just, because it was like this, right? It's just this sense of aloneness and but also simplicity and simplicity. Yeah, I just said the simplicity and um oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, but you could see if this had been a sunny, bright day, it would have been a completely different feeling than this day that I had when I was there. Another type of light is backlight or side light. And I'd gone over to Othello in March to see the sandhill cranes, and I'd never done this before. A friend had told me about it, and I'm like, okay, that sounds really cool. And I don't know why all of a sudden I'm doing all this wildlife and bird photography, which I had never even really thought about before. And we had gone to Yellowstone and in January and a few other places, and it's like all of a sudden I'm like, I need to photograph eagles and owls and and really cool birds. And so I absolutely loved going and finding these sandhill cranes. But these, I got lots of photos with them, full sunlight. You could see their colors of their wings, and there's red on their heads, and absolutely really great photos. But I loved this day when I was photographing them because they were backlit. And so you can kind of tell a little bit of the color. I could even have brought down the shadows a little more and had them totally in silhouette. But I wanted just a little bit of their coloring showing. But because the sun was behind them on that side, I was able to see, the wings and the how all the feathers were set up, and I love this one of the three of them just stacked up in front of each other. I just think it turned out really cool. So sometimes backlit, often I'm like, I will not take a photo. It's like that subject is backlit. It makes no sense. But other times backlit makes a lot of sense, and you can have some really, really cool subjects stand out. Another with the side light, and as I'm pretty sure you could probably tell exactly where the sun was for this photo, and just enough of the light showing off these amazing creatures just added a quite a different look, even than the silhouettes that they were showing. Here's another example of that backlight, and just the way this was super early in the morning. The sun was just barely coming up and had all of these frozen dew on these leaves, and so it just made an entirely different image than, I didn't plan this one. I was there to photograph Mount Shuxon with the sunrise, and I turned and looked, and I saw this plant, just doing this, and had to figure out how to photograph it. Another type of light is the way the light casts, so which is for shadows. And shadows are really cool, that it can draw your attention to something you maybe normally wouldn't see. It can add dimension to your photo. Shadows can add a lot of interest to your photos. This is the stairway up to the Admiralty Head Lighthouse at Fort Casey. And honestly, I didn't even originally see the shadow that it was casting until I'd taken a few photos, and then I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And the extra, if that had just been white back there, it still would have been a cool photo, I think. But I love the extra that the shadows added to that. This is on last night, actually, on the ferry coming home, and I loved it. It was an almost empty ferry. It was so weird. There was probably 40 cars on the entire ferry. So I was running around on the different empty decks and photographing, and if I loved how the light came through all the windows. There was light out because again the sun was getting quite low, but there was light out on the water, and what was coming through just added a whole lot more depth and interest to that photo, I think. Here's another thing about shadows and dimension. This is by Matt Rainier, actually, Tahoma, and shot pretty far away. And I just loved all the layers and layers and layers. So this specific light shows that, which I think is pretty cool. Shadows can also show more dimension. This is a hosta, I think is a hosta leaf, and showing the curves and how it grows. It just shows a whole lot more than if it had just been even a diffuse light, right? There wouldn't have been any of those shadows involved. So just a different way to photograph and look at something. So some more examples of different types of light. And this is more to inspire you and but also no, this isn't gonna always happen. Like how I started this off is like, oh, there's days like right now, if you were to look out my boat window, it's drizzling and it's gray. Everything is gray, it's one color, and that is all. So there is no interest. It's not even any really cool fog to bring in. It is just gray outside. So this was the eclipse that we had here back in March, and I was in Othello shooting the sandhill cranes, and I was able to had nice clear skies, which I was super excited about. But once again, light. It's just you need light. You need light to be able to do the photograph. Here it is, almost totally finished. Well, yeah, at the when it was done, and then yeah, no, this one is fully done. Anyway, goodness, it was well, but I just think light is pretty amazing, and learning to do moon shooting, that type of light is totally different. And I think our next Zoom class is about doing night photography and stuff. So I'll definitely talk about how to photograph the moon, because usually it's just a bright white circle, right? So we'll work on that. Here's some more light, just yummy morning light with still a little bit of haze and fog. Over here is the light is just the reflection on the lake, Potholes Lake in Othello. And I just loved the even the shadows from the clouds and so forth, and the bright white just lent itself to beautiful lighting. Here in Leavenworth, just with with the fog, it was just glowy, glowy. And normally if I photograph this view without the glow, it would just be a kind of a boring photo. If let's say the sun was higher in the sky, it just would have been a river and a couple frozen trees and so forth. But the glow is just another type of light to look for. Storm light is amazing, and you can often miss storm light. Yeah, so I recommend if you see clouds coming in, start looking for storm light. And these are actually all three of these are in Oregon around the Steam Mountains. And I was just in awe when I saw how these trees kind of went over this gravel road, and the light just hit these trees, and it was just, I can't even explain how beautiful it was to me. And here's another storm. These are the Steam Mountains here down at the bottom. And I got most of the way up into the Steam Mountains, and I had to turn around because Google didn't tell me that the road was closed because there was so much snow up there. And this was in June that I was in Oregon. And but again, this storm was coming in over the top of me, and you can see the difference between the clouds and where the sunlight was and where the storm was coming in, and the sun was totally, just showing off the snow in the mountains. And here's another one on that crazy stormy day. So using clouds to express the light is a wonderful way, besides getting gorgeous light on plants or a cool barn, or some other subjects. The clouds are just a magnificent way to see the beautiful cool light. some more awesome lights. And since we're doing more landscape photography than portraits, I didn't add in off-camera flashlight and diffuse light doing portraits and even indoor lighting. Because those are some ways, using window light, the soft window light coming in is one type, as opposed to having an overhead light if you're trying to do a portrait. And so I just went into a tiny bit there, but I didn't focus on those for this purpose here today. The Winthrop Balloon Festival, the top two here, and using the sunburst, right? And using a high f-stop like f16, f22 to get the sun to do a burst right here with the hot air balloon was just a fun added light. Yeah, I mean the sun was already there, but forcing my camera to do that. Here's almost a artificial light, but not really artificial because it's fire, but how beautiful nighttime light can be. And that could be also like the Seattle skyline photo that I showed towards the beginning, nighttime photos with those artificial lights of buildings and bridges, and those are all different types of lighting that can draw in amazing moods. The bottom right here is another example of making your camera do a starburst. That's just not happenstance. That is a specific setting on your camera, and it's usually an f-stop like f16, f18, f22. That's what you need to do to cause that a starburst. Another yummy glowy light with it was pretty early in the morning. The sun was just coming up and a little bit of fog. Just more, it's all of this is to show you if you could be just going through your day and totally miss light. But it's like I've been training myself to constantly be looking around and look for light constantly. When I'm out with my mom, she's always like, how did you see that? How did you see that? And I'm just like, because I'm always looking for light, and where is it and what is it doing? And this was an amazing place in Yellowstone National Park. And honestly, we had driven by this on our way in. Excuse me, we were on a tour because this was January and you can't drive into Yellowstone except on a really cool big tour bus with big tires, except the north entrance. You can go into the north entrance. And this is one of the springs. And oh, I forgot to write down the name of it. I'm totally forgot. I'm so sorry. But we had driven by, and I should have put it in here. I'd taken a photo just with my cell phone as we drove by, and it was just, oh, cool. It's just this, the steam's coming up, and it's like, oh, that's cool. By the time we finished the tour, we turned around, we came back. This is what was going on. And the steam, it was like this perfect condition. The way the steam was coming up, the light was coming through. I mean, it was casting shadows from the trees into the fog. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. And it was really hard to leave and get back up on the bus, and everybody's waiting for me. And my husband, he's so sweet, he's like, babe, we gotta go, everybody's waiting. But I'm like, no, another photo. So sometimes you cannot plan for what is gonna happen, and this was just a beautiful time I will never forget. So some more light. I went up with a friend up to the Muirkirk Gardens, and is this one from the Muirkirk? Yeah, this one is too. So these photos here are from the Muirkirk Gardens, and nice diffused light, and I it was just perfect conditions for taking some of these photos. Now, sometimes the sun came out, broke through, and then it's like the weird shadows that happened with the petals, and it just wasn't really fun. So it wasn't the whole time, but uh a lot of the time we just had this magnificent light that I could then capture the with a little bit of glow. And one tip, if you're going somewhere and like the tulips or Meerkat Gardens or anywhere like that, bring like an umbrella with you. If you don't have like a big diffuser that you might use for portraits or something, but even just an umbrella would work, just to hold it over the photo, or excuse me, over the flowers, so you can get a nice diffused look. So that's a tip if you're out and about and it's a big, beautiful blue sky, sunny day. This light was phenomenal. And it seriously, there was no light anywhere else except for this one little area that was, shining through the forest. And it was just beautiful, just highlighting this one fern that was right there. This is light. It was early morning light. And actually, Paul, you were with us. This was the morning we went up to shoot the sunrise with the daffodils. And a lot of the daffodils were dying. We actually got there probably a week too late, maybe. And I looked at the back and it was cold. It was so cold that morning, and saw all these dewdrops, and the way the sunlight was hitting them, I just started taking photos of them. So that light was just, again, unexpected, but it made for I think a beautiful photo. Now there is another light, and it is just flat light. Like I just explained, what is outside my windows right now is just this boring flat light. There's no distinct contrast in the scene. There's no shadows. There's no highlights. There's nothing dramatic going on. And it's not like that amazing diffused light that is just beautiful. It's different. And as you learn more about light and you learn to see light, you'll be able to see and understand what you're saying. This was in the Ho. I actually hiked out to the Ho River, and I think it was like 10 miles that day. And I had my camera, hiking all with my camera and my tripod and all that stuff. And I get out to the point where I was going to turn around, and it was like, it is nothing. It is bland. It is boring. And so these are actually just cell phone photos. I didn't even bother to take out my camera. So there's no pop involved. There's no awesomeness. Now it is still quite beautiful, but it's just, sometimes there's just flat light, and that's okay, because we have other days that there's not. So looking for the light, start training your eyes to look for the light. As I mentioned before, it's like, out with other people and they're like, how did you see that? How did you see that? And it's like, because I am constantly looking. So when you look for the light, you kind of make a little check in your head. Do you see cool patterns? Do you see shadows being cast? Is the moss on a tree dripping with beauty? Because, is the light diffused and soft instead of that harsh light? So look for the light. And so this is outside on my boat, actually, but you could see the shadow that the dark storm cloud caused down here at the bottom with the light here and the color. And it's just, but if you're not looking for it, you won't see it. And another little tip, sometimes I'm like, oh, is it as good as I think in my head? I'll pick up my cell phone and take a photo with my cell phone. And I'm like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? You know, especially like reflections and so forth. I'll put up my cell phone and take a photo. And our cell phones, I believe, they've got to have a polarizer in the, I still have yet to look it up, but I'm pretty sure there's a polarizer filter in our cameras on our cell phones, and it will just go wow, and it's like yes. And so grab my camera with my polarizer, and because polarizer is another huge wonderful tool if you have one, a circular polarizer, to help with reflections, help with the sky. It can really help bring out the drama and the amazingness that you're seeing. There's also, you know, the neutral density filters, graduating neutral density filters. So maybe the sky's too bright for the lower, and you want to equalize the sky with the rest of the photo. So graduated neutral density filter might help. So there are some tools that we might be able to see with our eyes, but our camera can't, it's not capable of changing the top and the bottom. And even when you get to post, like you get to Lightroom or Photoshop, you can only do so much in those. Our tools, Lightrooms, yeah, and Photoshop, they're pretty amazing. But if you can fix what you can in camera, so you're not blowing out. And actually, I think we're going to go into that right now. Here it is. So the camera doesn't often see the light that we do. So we need to tell it to prioritize, and we need to learn to control our exposure, not just our point and clip. So, wow, I totally jumped the gun, didn't I? But here we go. So often with dramatic light, well, even with diffuse light too, we want to make sure our highlights aren't blown out. We want to keep a little detail in our highlights, and we want to look at our shadows. They show, you know, where's the light coming from? What's the quality of the light? Do we want those shadows darker? Do we want them lighter? Maybe we need to move our feet so we can change the angle to catch the light different. That a perfect example of that. I mean, there's many, but one is to get the starburst of the sun through a tree. You can't just like, oh, the sun's right there, and set your settings correctly and aim. You might have to move around like this. There's if you anyway, I'm always like moving. It's like, oh, there it is, and you don't always just stick your camera up there and it works. You actually need to move around for the camera to catch what you need it to. Highly support being in manual mode. Take full control of your exposure triangle, ISO, shutter, aperture. ISO, auto ISO, not, you know, maybe you need to do that, but the more control you have, I believe the better photos you can get, because you're controlling the light that's coming into your camera. Other things to look for those light patterns. You know, if you're inside, is there light coming in through blinds causing these really cool stripes, or light patterns through the trees, like the ones at Yellowstone I just showed you. Maybe you have lace curtains that is doing this really cool pattern on a table or on the floor. Often I'll see, like doing hikes, the sun will cover or cause leaves to have shadows on the floor of the trail. And sometimes they're just super cool, seeing them all lined up there, and they're just all shadows. Look for those reflection, puddles, windows, mirrors, and that rim light like we talked about with those sandhill cranes, the way that there's a backlight or a glow about them. And then color, of course, color, light can be the color, right? Or in the color. So the sunsets, neon lights, LEDs, colored shadows. So cool light or interesting light usually isn't perfect light. It can be broken, it can be fragmented, it can be unexpected, but learn to look for shadows, shapes, and not just brightness. It's just it's repetition. It's training your eye to keep looking. What is around you? What are you always looking at? So things to talk about when you're out with your camera. You know, what is my main subject? What am I trying to share with my audience? What and where is the light? What mood am I trying to capture with these photos? Is I I use the word at peace. Is this composition at peace or is it chaos? You know, do you look at it and go, you know, can you sigh with it? Or is it like, I don't know where to look? There's just too much going on, too much chaos. And am I trying to show too much? Or maybe not enough? Should I move my feet, get higher, get lower? And we had another Zoom call all about composition. So we did talk about a lot of these things, but light is a huge part of our compositions, and we want to get those right. And practicing and changing and trying all sorts of things, I never get it right straight out. You know, it's like I'll set up my tripod somewhere and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not working. It's like, okay, do I need to get higher? Do I need to get lower? Oh no, I need to move over there about 10 feet or maybe 5 feet. And it's like, oh, I want that to be in my foreground, not that. And so, but it's just constantly changing and trying new things. So remember our exposure cheat sheet. I won't spend too much time on this, but remember for our aperture, it's like, do you want a shallow depth of field? So are you shooting at f1.4? So you only want the thing in front to be in focus, or do you want everything to be in focus? So you're shooting at f16. So more light, less light. Our shutter speed, remember, also affects how much light comes in. If the longer our shutter is open, the more light comes in, but also it also can blur. I was photographing some really cool waterfalls down in Oregon last week, and I'm clicking away, doing long exposures. I'm looking silky, beautiful, and I was so excited. I'm like, yeah, nailing this setting. It's exactly what I want. And then I realized the wind's blowing, so those few leaves that are in the foreground a little bit closer are just blurred. Like, oops. So thankfully I remembered, and to combat that, I then took some really fast shutters to freeze those leaves, and then I'll be taking the long exposure ones and then blending them together. So in post, but thankfully I remembered, otherwise all those photos were just have big blurry leaves in them. And then also how our ISO affects. The higher the ISO, the more light, but also the more noise. And thankfully we have like Topaz, even Lightroom has a really good fix now for ISO noise. It's so don't be as afraid. I used to be really afraid of bumping my ISO up when needed, because it's like, I want my shutter speed here, I want my aperture here. Those are both really important, but I really need to bump my ISO up. And because I need more light coming into my camera, I need more light to get the photo I want. So I'm not as afraid anymore to raise that ISO, because I know I can throw it in. I love Topaz, so I'll throw it in Topaz later, and then I'm a happy camper again. So our technique, the other thing, a couple more things here. Our histogram. Our histogram is super duper important. And seriously, I was photographing somewhere just recently, and I thought I was doing great, put my card in Lightroom and upload, and everything was so dark. And I'm just like, how is everything so dark? And then I remembered I had bumped off my histogram and I wasn't looking at my histogram anymore. And so everything was underexposed, and I was really bummed, but thankfully for post, I can, bring in, more exposure and so forth, but only to a certain amount. But so use our histogram. That is an amazing tool that is right in your camera to make sure your highlights are not clipping on the right, your shadows can be recovered, and our blacks still have some detail too. And so here's a reminder of what our histogram looks like. So our blacks are there on the left, shadows, midtones, highlights, and then whites. And so we want to make sure that our blacks don't touch that wall, and we want to make sure that our whites don't touch that wall, because when they touch the wall, that means we've lost a little bit of detail and we can never recover those details. Oh, and most important, shoot in RAW. So definitely shoot in RAW. If you're not shooting in RAW, most of this is, you can't do what you need to do. Please shoot in RAW. And if you have any questions about that, just reach out to me and we'll talk about it. But so we don't want to overexpose our images. We don't want to way underexpose our images. We want a really good neutral exposure. So the other tool that should be right in your camera is our light meter. And so where does our light meter fall as we're looking at it? Here in the viewfinder, if it's to the right, it's overexposed. To our left, it's underexposed, and about the middle is properly exposed. And sometimes those are way off, as opposed to just a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other. But learn your camera, practice, see where that meter is. And then I won't go into detail now, but what is your camera metering? Is it a tiny little spot meter right in the center? Does it take a meter of everything in your viewfinder, in your composition? And so deciding what type of metering system you use in your camera is also important. But again, sorry, won't go into that too deep right now. So here's some practices. This is new. I hadn't done this before in my talks, and this is all recorded, so you can go back and watch this, or learn about, redo these. But so learn how different types of light influences mood, how it does exposures differently and our compositions, and develop our eyes for recognizing and using natural and then even artificial light creatively. So here's the first assignment. Same subject. This is kind of like I did a little bit with the Seattle skyline, but I've actually there's a walk I take down to Golden Gardens down from me, and there's a awesome pond. And I've shot that pond in every single light scenario possible. One, you can't even hardly see the pond because it's so gray and covered, to beautiful golden light, to big, beautiful blue sky and white puffy clouds, perfect reflections, wind blowing, everything. So you can see how one location changes how the light changes the entire mood of the exact same place. So photograph the same subject 3 different ways. So it might be a person or a coffee mug, a flower, your backyard. but shoot at different times. Maybe it's golden hour, overcast, midday sky, or or your window light indoors. And then you can also write a sentence for each photo describing the mood and how the light affected your shots. What do you remember about it? Another assignment is go shadow hunting. So train your eye to notice where light is falling and where it isn't. So take 5 photos where shadows are the star of the image. Maybe side light, if you can, even your puppy would work, side light on a face, the window blinds casting patterns, trees casting shadows on a wall, abstract light on the ground. I mentioned like those leaves when hiking from the trees way above, how they do this really cool abstract light. Dramatic contrast in architecture, like the stairs going up to the lighthouse. So there's just look for where the shadows are. So what does the shadow say? Is it soft, sharp, eerie, dramatic? Because each time I've taken photographs where the shadows are soft and peaceful, and then other times it's like drama, it just screams drama and everything in between. Another assignment you can give a try is the manual mode challenge. So take full control of your camera to expose for light intentionally. So go for the manual mode. If you've never done this before, some of my other Zoom calls will go all through this. You can message me. I'd be glad to talk through it with you, but manual mode really will help you take the next step in your photography journey instead of just being on auto. And maybe you'll do it on aperture priority first. This is what I did. I started with aperture priority first, and because I wanted to control my depth of field, and then I let my camera do the shutter speed and the ISO. And then there was other times it's like, I want to control my shutter speed. I need to freeze whatever's happening, or I wanted the long exposures like a waterfall. So, I could put it into shutter speed priority and then let the camera figure out the aperture and the ISO for me. So it is totally fine to practice with those and then look and see, well, what did my camera decide? What did it think was a good idea? So it is a truly a great way to learn, being in those other priority settings. But ultimately getting to manual mode is really a wonderful experience to get you to the next step in your photography journey. So make sure you're checking your highlights, making sure that they're not blown out, check your shadows, but then also as you go through, just play with your settings and then be sure to study them and see what you do. What it's lost or gained in each exposure. How does the mood shift? If you maybe underexpose a little bit, it's a little bit darker image as opposed to a bright white high key image. A high key is lots of whites, right? So really, really bright. And that will have a completely different feel and mood than having something maybe all the shadows are hidden, brought down, and it's a much darker image. So light is definitely the essential element that creates an image. It defines exposures, reveals shapes, textures, sets mood, and is truly the foundation of our visual storytelling. So without light, there is no photograph. We need that light. So no light, no photo. Light reflects off subjects, enters the camera lens to create an image, just for the basics. The light we capture affects mood. So soft, warm light feels different from hard, cold light. So you're not you're not really just photographing a subject, you're photographing the light on them. So is it that bright midday light? Is it lovely diffused light over it? Are you photographing a shadow coming off of them? But it's the light that you're really photographing.